The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening. Israel continues to block supplies and aid from entering the region, and the situation has led to a shortage of medicine and food, with UN agencies warning of the risk of famine. Israel denies the claims of insufficient aid reaching the 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. The fragile ceasefire between Israel and Hamas ended last month when Israel resumed airstrikes. Our next guest was in Gaza when the ceasefire was broken. Iftikhar Sheikh Ahmed is the Global Chief Programs Officer with the Human Concern International, a global charity, and joins us now in studio. Good morning.
Good morning, Rebecca.
You've been following, of course, the situation in Gaza very closely. Were you prepared when you arrived for what you found?
First of all, thank you for having me. And this is a good question, actually, because we have been hearing about Gaza, reading the articles, following the news. But when you're there, it hits you differently and it stays with you. It's a scene like you are watching a horror movie, because the situation in Gaza is beyond catastrophic. It is beyond catastrophic. And the thing is that, we keep saying the fight, it's Israel, it's, Gaza, and is that. But at the end of the day, really, it is us choosing our humanity as a human being. It's not about choosing sides. It's choosing to stand for humanity, the way we know it, the way we were raised, to be human beings. In Gaza, family have been enduring unimaginable pain, from being displaced multiple times, their homes destroyed, their beloved one killed, the health system collapsed. And really, you go to these what do you call it? Like the few hospitals that are still operating, or the clinics, from one of which we have our own that is still operating. And you just don't understand how they are doing it. Like performing amputations on lungs that actually can be saved. Just because you want to make sure that they don't have complications after that, because you don't have the means to actually deal with these complications. You are performing amputations while you don't have anesthesia. So you can just imagine that.
I just want to get a sense of what you were doing there. What was sort of your main job on the ground? And I know you were there at a very dangerous time, but just walk us through it.
So my role is to plan and oversee the programs department at Human Concern International. So we deliver aid. And in Gaza, we have been from the very beginning delivering life-saving humanitarian aid. And that includes food items, the distribution of shelter kits, clothes, and running primary health clinic that started in Tel Sultan Rafah, that's in the south. I couldn't actually reach that area because that's within the buffer zone while the ceasefire was holding. And we had to reallocate that clinic 3 times due to the evacuations orders that comes to the different zones.
You went during the ceasefire, but while you were there, it was broken. When did you realize what was happening?
When we woke up around 2 a.m. and to the house shaking. So we were staying in the guest house with our partner. I was there with 2 other doctors. One is emergency doctor. The other one is gynecologist. They were waiting for their rotation to Al-Nasser hospital that weekend. But unfortunately, we woke up and we got out from our rooms and we were just wondering what's happening. Because even when the ceasefire was still intact, we would hear during the night, armed fires, the tanks firing. But we were told that this is, at the borders, it's within the buffer zone, just to scare anyone that dares to go there and all that. Then we realized, no, something wrong. And immediately we attended to our mobiles. We were talking with the local staff and we found out that these were attacks. So we were instructed to open our windows, like make sure there is gap and stay away from the glass. And we all gathered in one corner in the house.
How long were you there then in the end?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. In that time, I imagine you met a lot of people and heard heartbreaking stories, but just share with us someone that you met that really stays with you.
As you mentioned, we met lots of people. And it was the month of Ramadan. What stood with me is their generosity. So we're fasting, and everyone is like, yo, you're fasting. Like, if you come after iftar or stay for iftar with us. And they're staying in a tent. We're delivering for them the food packs for Ramadan. And they just want, to show us the hospitality generosity of the Gazans. And they want to make sure that we are taken care of. But one story that really, I would never forget, it's about Misk. She's a 3-year-old girl, lovely girl. Her parents got her after 5 years of trying to have a baby. And she is her only parent's child. So I met her with her grandmother. We were distributing kits for orphans, and her maternal grandmother is now her guardian. So Misk lost 25 family members in that airstrike. So she was in the building with her parents and her family from her dad's side. And so everyone was killed, her parents, her grandparents, uncles, cousins, and aunties. And she was the only survivor from that building, but they found her after 2 or 3 hours from the rescue teams, just trying to save whoever. So one of the neighbors actually was there, and he just heard a muffled sound, and when they digged up, they found her with like rocks in her mouth. She was bleeding from her front head, from behind her ear, and she sustained fraction to her hip, leg, and also burns all, around her body. But because of that injury in her front head, Misk has a major issue with her eyes, and she needs to go under operation. But we know that we don't have, adequate equipments. We don't have, anesthesia to do these things. She was only 18 months old when this happened. Because that happened at the beginning of the war. That's too much for a child to endure.
Yeah. We are in the middle of a federal election campaign. You've just gotten back from 3 weeks, and I know it was a struggle to get out, but you did make it out. And we are in the middle of this campaign, and I don't think there's been much conversation from the candidates about this war in Gaza. I'm curious, what are you hoping to hear yet, and why do you think we're not hearing more?
So as I mentioned, it's not about choosing sides. It's about doing what's right. And Canada, it's known for being a leader in the humanitarian sector and upholding the international law. But unfortunately, we did not see this with this war. And that makes us wonder, why is our government silent? Why are they rocking away from what's happening? And it's our duty, our call as Canadians to actually do what's right, to not turn our back. So as you mentioned, the elections are coming. Every vote matters, every donation matters, every letter to a member of parliament matter. We need to be out loud, that this cannot continue. As Canadian, we want to see Canada acting, meaning that Canada request, demand the immediate stopping of the war, the permanent ceasefire, the unconditional access of the humanitarian aid into Gaza, and also the protection of humanitarian workers.
We could talk longer. We have run out of time. I appreciate you coming in and sharing your story and the story of the folks in Gaza as well. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Rebecca.
Iftihar Sheikh Ahmed is the Global Chief Programs Officer with Human Concern International. That is a global charity.